I think we are live. Things should be good. Also, super funny and not something you're likely to see often. The heck is going on here? And look how uncomfortable Gibson is. These boys don't share beds, but they both hit the bed so fast waiting for their live stream to starting treat. And now Gibson's really uncomfortable because he's in the bed, but he knows he's not supposed to get up. It's just sad. Come here, Gibson, you don't have to stay there. You want to go in this bed? One of you can move over here. Come here. You want to come over here? Come here. Somebody can come in. Not both of you. I was trying to fix the situation. What is happening? Good boy. Lay down. You're not getting anything for that. Weird dogs. So, okay, there we go. Gibson, that was it. You're not getting anything. You're done. You're adorable, but that was all. Okay. So I just thought that was hilarious because Gibson does not share beds, but he thought he was supposed to stay, and that's where he landed when it was a whole thing. Anyway, moving on. So I think, did I get this all fixed? Okay. So what we were starting, my brain is just like, it has been a few weeks, but you guys already know about that. I don't think I'm caught up on my brain functioning yet. Anyway, tonight we are going to be, let's try that again in English. Tonight we are going to be painting a Bumblebee in acrylics. I am working on a Frederick's watercolor canvas board. Just for transparency, this canvas was provided to me by Frederick's. They are already the only brand I used, so no difference for me there other than I let you know they sent us this canvas. So this is a watercolor canvas board, and it is super smooth. And you might be thinking, well, I thought this was acrylic painting. I don't even use this for watercolor. I don't think I know anyone who uses this for watercolor. I'm sure someone does. I just don't know who they are. So, which brings me to another funny story in just a moment here about watercolor. Moving on. So this is really, really smooth. The reason that I like these is it's so smooth, it's very easy for fine detail. And I'm going to be airbrushing my background. Don't worry, for those of you who are following along, you're like, well, I'm out. No, you can paint this however you want. You can paint a solid color. You could, it would be really cute, and I was super tempted to do so, just stripes. Use some tape and have a striped background would be so cute. You've got so many options. Paint your background however you want. You can do wet into wet, where I've got lots of videos showing you how to do that. I will be using traditional brushwork once we get to the beast, so you're still in for this. And again, a solid colored background, a violet would be gorgeous. A blue would be beautiful, like an ultramarine blue, like anything. You could use any background color you want for yours, but I will be airbrushing mine. This is an 8x10. Let's see. As we're going, leave your questions in the chat for me, and Nick or Joseph will be writing those down. They do so much work. They do more work than I do for these streams, I think. But they will be writing that down, and then we'll come back to all of the questions at the end of the live stream. And what else do we have? Are we ready? Am I actually ready? That can't be possible. I didn't feel like I was ready. I was certain I was forgetting stuff. So with airbrushing, my airbrush, I don't know if you can see, no, you probably won't be able to see. I don't have the cap on mine, I lost it. It's probably under the easel somewhere. I take it off while I'm airbrushing because it just collects paint, but I forget to put it back on, and then I end up bending the needle. So there's a chance I'm gonna have to stop and break that down and switch out needles, because I definitely bent mine. I need white paint to start with. My favorite airbrush paint is the Goldens. I have a little bit of Holbein's paint left. I won't buy anything else from that company, so I won't be replacing any of theirs. Also, there's been some, and it's rumors, but questions have been brought up about Holbein's testing with Lightfast and their toxicity tests. Let's just say I heard a company talking about how other companies weren't as honest about how toxic some of the products were, and I'm like, oh, I know who you're talking about. It was one of those situations, so complete rumors. But I already don't like them because I don't like how they handle the Lightfast thing with their colored pencils. And I know a lot of people are saying, oh, now they put the ASTM, they put the official Lightfast ratings, whatever, in their products. Yeah, but they didn't before. And then how they treated me when I did contact them about that, and how they just stopped answering me because apparently my questions were hard. I don't know. I was being nice too. You can watch that video. I have a whole very long rant I'm not going to go too far into now. But that is why I will not be. So you'll see me using a couple of them just because I have them. I may as well use them up, but I won't be giving that company more money. I am going to be using a product called, this is Vallejo's Airbrush Flow Improver. Let's put that there. I put a couple drops of this into the airbrush before I add the paint, and that is going to make it so that my paint is less likely to clog or dry up on that needle, Like, it makes a huge difference. I already painted my background in olive green. Now, one of the questions somebody had left or made a comment, I don't know if it was in the chat last week, but somebody wanted to know how I got my colors to be more neutral, kind of earthy tone versus just so bold and bright like what you get out of the tube. The easiest thing to do is mix whatever color with its complementary color. In this case, I used a Hooker's green and red oxide. The complementary color to green is red. You add a little bit of that and you're going to get the more of the complementary color you add, the more of almost a brownish, more neutral tone you are going to move towards. So purple would be yellow. If something's too bright yellow, just a touch of purple or magenta is going to tone that down. So we've got green and red, blue and orange. So blue and orange tends to go more gray on me. It depends on which shade of blue versus orange. That's more picky on using your complementaries there. But your red and green, purples and yellows are great for that. So what I'm going to do, and I do recommend using, I'm not going to do it tonight because I'm live streaming and that would make it hard for you to hear me, but I do recommend, normally I would say wear a mask. My brain shut down. Which one is that? The ones everyone were using, and it made it really hard to get for my airbrushing. Oh, somebody tell me what it is. Okay, hold on. I actually do want to find this because it is, I think, useful for you to know what it is. Where did I put mine? Here we go. How odd. A word we used so much for so many years, and suddenly my brain's like, nope, we're out. N95, my God, that should not have been that hard. An N95 mask is what I typically use when I'm airbrushing. It protects you from what you breathe in. It does not protect anyone else if you cough. Kind of a weird myth there about those. So N95s, again, protects you from breathing in the airbrush paint to an extent. Obviously, it would have to be really well fitted, but it makes a big difference. If you've been airbrushing and you start sneezing blue, you know you're breathing that in. And yes, most of the paints that I'm using are non-toxic. Most, not all, are non-toxic. So it's not that big of a deal if you're breathing it, except we'll go into story time before I get started here then. So back in, this was probably around 2000, 2001, 2002, that time period. What in the world was that? Something just popped and I don't know what it was. But anyway, hopefully it wasn't anything important. But back then, 2002, right around there, I had been airbrushing and I turned around and I didn't realize I had a cloud. It was a small one-bedroom apartment and the living room was just cloud as far, like just sit. If you guys remember back in like the 80s and the 70s when everyone smoked inside and you'd walk into someone's house and it'd be this cloud of smoke, that's what happened with me except airbrush paint. And it was one of those, that was probably not good. My fish, I had a reef tank at the time. They were fine. But it definitely, like I had been breathing that in and I didn't realize until the next day I was so dizzy. So what happened was I'd been breathing that in, it coated my lungs. Non-toxic, yes, but it was making it so I wasn't able to get in enough oxygen. So that was kind of a scary weekend. And that could have been prevented by one, opening a window, paying attention. I was being sloppy with the way I was airbrushing. From then on out, when I airbrushed that heavy on something that large, I just went outside and did it there. But a mask, if I had been wearing an N95 mask, my lungs would have, like I would have breathed some in, but it would have protected me enough. So that is why when you're doing a ton of airbrushing, especially. Here, I'm doing a small amount. It's not as big of a deal, but I am being careless and not wearing one. I also need to cover I did forget something. I need to cover my keyboard while I do this because the airbrush paint will settle on stuff. Now this stuff, the airbrush paint settles, it dries like dust. So it's not gonna ruin anything, but it does get in the keyboard. So I'm gonna cover that up just so I don't have to go back and clean that later. Okay, now let's go. That is my story of how I tried to unalive myself with airbrush paint one time. So I've got I don't know if you can see a little bit of paint in there. I always test off on the side on a piece of cardboard because sometimes I don't mix things up very well. And I'm just gonna start creating a really light, this is just white. This is weirdly translucent. Which white did I use? Yeah, I probably just didn't shake it up well enough. Oh well. And if you are interested, you can bid on this. It is over at my website. Link is in the video description. And I can still see my lines from the bee under that, so I don't care if I airbrush over it. Now, why did I do the green first? Just to give me a base so I'm not fighting against the white. It'll make it go way faster. Because I don't mind if some of this green shows, very little would, but I would rather that than fighting against the white. Okay, well, I ran out of white from that time through, so that actually works out well. I'm going to go ahead and clean the white. Because the white is so opaque, I'm going to rinse this out of the airbrush before I, let's see if you can actually see while I do this, before I move on to the next color. Otherwise it would kind of make it a pastel color. So let's, palette, where's my palette? So all I'm gonna do is take a spray bottle and I just squirt in here and dump it into where all my old paint is. And that is it. Clean enough. I can run a cleaner through that if I want, but it doesn't really, for what I'm doing right now, that is fine. So I've got a couple of colors I'm going to use, a moss green. I'm going to start with this lighter color, this light green, which is kind of fluorescent, because it's easier if I go from a light color than shift to the darker colors. Okay, so we start putting this in, and I'm going to go right over the white, and look how bright that'll be anywhere where the white was. It's not that I planned on leaving the white. It's that if I didn't do it white first, these would not be light enough. I'm definitely going to come back through and add more white, though. I want to lighten some of this up, I think. And I need some more paint. Actually, that's probably good for the, now I need more bright green down at the bottom here. There we go. Going over the dark and the light areas, just there we go. Now I'm going to add a couple more drops of my flow improver. So just a little bit in there, 2 drops. And you can do something very, very similar without an airbrush. It's just going to take a lot longer. The airbrush saves so much time for this style of painting. So this color that I just used was my moss green, so it's a much darker green. Definitely going to be coming back through with the white to lighten some of this up. And I actually poured more than I want in there, so I'm going to switch to white again and start lightening more up. But I'm actually going to shake up the white this time. So I'm going to run this to make sure it's clean. I just take a paper towel and run that through until it runs out. I can run water or a brush cleaner through that if needed to, if I need to. So once it gets to this point, it's not completely clean. You can see a little bit of that tint of that green. It's good enough though. You really don't need it perfectly clean. Just most of the way. Okay, 2 more of the flow improver. I'm going to actually shake up my titanium white better this time because that was, I may just be running low. Yeah, there's not a ton in there. Let's lighten this way up. There we go. There's the opacity I wanted. And see how nice and soft and how fast it goes. Like it's very, very fast to get this soft of a look. Again, you can do this with wet into wet. Don't feel like you can't make something similar. It's a slightly different look, but I'm going to do some dots so we get the hint of flowers in the background where I'm going to put some purple. It's out of focus, so really we're not trying to put a bunch of detail, just dots are enough in some various sizes. And you don't have to work as fast as I am. I've got a limit because of it being a live stream, so I try to go through pretty quickly. But you can take your time. There's no rush for you. And if you're following along, just pause the video. And I want these out of focus flowers back here. Look at that reference photo. It's got all the information you need. I don't need it exact. Close is close enough. That'll be a darker purple. Let's see. lighten where that green will go, otherwise that won't really show. I don't need to lighten where the dark purple is, it's where the lighter lavender would go. Otherwise, it won't really show up very well. So for those of you who are painting, hand painting in, you would paint in your actual flowers here. That's going to take you a lot longer. And yours will probably be more in focus. That's totally fine. But you can always use your fine mist sprayer. If you saw my raccoon video, the one from, it was a while ago, over a year ago. That one, or about a year, I don't know, something like that. That one has, shows you how to use a fine mist sprayer to keep it wet so you've got time to get all of your blending done. It can absolutely, what I'm doing could look almost exactly the same. The only reason I'm not doing that is it takes a lot longer. And I wanted this to be really good for whoever buys it. Like if I have to rush it, it's not going to look that good. Not for the amount of work this would take to make that look blurry. And if you're serious about acrylic painting and you like this style, I definitely recommend invest in an airbrush. It is like a must-have supply for me. I love it. It is quite an investment though. One of the mistakes a lot of my students have done over the years is go to eBay and get some cheap thing thinking, oh, I'm just gonna spend $75 because they had a whole setup with everything I needed to start and I'll see if I like it. Okay, that $75 could have gone through the $500 you need to get the good setup, to get everything you need. The problem with a lot of those cheap ones is they break. So you'll read reviews where people are like, oh, it's so great, it worked good. Yeah, for like 2 days. So they leave the review and then it breaks and then it's like they are not a long-term product. I would rather see you save the money, and if you're thinking, well, I don't know if I'm gonna like it, my attitude about that is if you like the look, learn to like the medium. It takes some getting used to, and the nice thing too with this look, the out of focus is the easiest thing to do with the airbrush. The thing that's harder is when you're getting a lot of control with lots of tiny detail. I am not practiced in it. That just takes a lot more practice. Wow, that wasn't redundant at all. But this sort of thing, super easy. Like day one, you're getting a blurry out of focus background. I've got to lighten up anywhere where I'm going to want those purples. Keep that soft. And I want to make sure I go over the bee so that I don't have a halo effect going around it. And that's going to be the same for those of you painting by hand. Make sure if you've drawn in your subject, overlap that some. You don't want a light line where it doesn't quite touch the subject. That always looks terrible. It's kind of your I'm an amateur sign when you have this line around the subject where you didn't quite go up to it. Okay, that's probably good enough. We can start with the purple. And I've got enough of the white left. I'm going to pour some back into my container just to save it. Not that that much will save, but there's a little. And I'm just spraying and dumping. And then I can run it out on a paper towel. Add a little bit more water. And I'm just running water through the airbrush right now. Not that you can see it, but that's what's happening. It's down here. Super helpful. Okay, that should be good enough. Now I need some purple color. So I've got dioxazine purple, and I think I had, did I not grab it? Should have a lighter, like lavender color. I could have sworn I put one out here. Did I knock it on the floor? Huh, I may need to go find one. Oh, no, that's not it. I got extra greens, did not get the pinkish tones. Yeah, sure, that'll work. Wait, what are you? Opaque magenta. Okay. I might not even need that. Let's start with just the dioxazine purple. And I will still need to add green along that stem. Now, whenever I do this sort of background, I hate it until I start painting in the subject because it's so out of focus. You feel like it should be more detailed. It's not supposed to be. But if that happens and you're just like, oh, it's not coming out right, it's a normal feeling until you start painting in that subject. Just, again, because it's so out of focus. And a lot of what I do when I do this sort of out of focus background, it's just dots. You know, if I just barely go, look how just barely letting that go over the lighter purples. I'm not letting a lot of paint, whereas this, I'm just putting in really heavy. Again, this reference photo, if you're following along, can be found over at my website. Link is in the video description. You can also bid on this over there. The bidding will end at 10 p.m. Central Time. I may not even need the magenta, that purple. I mean, yeah, the reference photo has it, but it's really pretty with just the purple. I'll probably add a little. See how I've got variation with the darks? All with that same paint. I'm not having to reload it. It's just a matter of how heavy I'm putting that on there. And this looks more like a blue on the camera to me right now. I may have to adjust that. The green looks right, but it's more of it's dioxazine purple. It is purple, purple. And you can do regular brushwork on top of any of this as you need to. Okay. Do I need more of this? Darken a few areas up. See, again, I'm mostly doing dots as I build up the shapes in here. And this, I'll show you, hopefully this camera will give me better color. This is a really pretty purple. I'm super happy with how this is coming out. Okay, let's rinse this. Actually, no, I'm just gonna throw some magenta in there. Let it mix in the container. I'll usually just take a clean paintbrush or the end of a brush and stir that while it's in there when I mix a color like that. I'm gonna throw a little bit of white as well because I want more of a pastel color, and opaque is fine. Remember, if you add white, you're adding titanium white, you are making it more opaque and pastel. So it's not as simple as lightening the color. So if you're not trying to lighten a color, that's probably not the choice you want to make. And you notice I have this board behind me. It's just an old piece of cardboard. I use that all the time when I'm airbrushing to test colors, because I've got to feed it through, and actually it needs a little bit. I've got too much white. I need some more color saturation in there. So I'm going to put some more magenta, a bit more purple, stir that again. Let's see how this goes. We are actually almost done with the background. That should work better. There we go. Oh, that's a perfect color. I love it. Okay, I'm pretty excited about this now. Still mostly focusing on just little dots. And the farther away your airbrush is from the canvas, the more blurry and out of focus that area is going to be. And I don't need this to be the exact color as the reference photo. I'm just trying to get the values about the same. Dark's dark enough, light's light enough. And this is a very small amount of paint I'm using right now, so the chances of this like getting in my lungs or bothering me, it's not super likely. So it's not like it's always something I'm panicking about. But if I'm doing a lot of airbrushing, then I'm gonna be more concerned. Okay, let's add some more white to this. Stir it up again with the back of my paintbrush. Oh, I screwed up. I have to rinse it because I actually used the front of the paintbrush. Genius. I'll be using you later. Okay, so we've got it a little bit lighter again. Oops, a little bit of a splatter going on there. And I really just want a few little dots. Now don't go too heavy either. You too close and you like let that blast out, you will end up with like a splatter effect that's not super cute. Now, one of the airbrush paints that I used to use a lot was Createx because it's easy to get at like Hobby Lobby or Michael's. The problem is it's meant, at least the kind I was using, was meant for a 0.5 needle, the stuff that they carried at those stores, and it kept clogging the airbrush constantly. It got really frustrating. So I was always having to thin it out with water, which you can do, but it is much easier to just go with the Goldens for the airbrush paint. It works with a 0.3 and a 0.2 needle just fine. That smaller size without clogging. Now these flowers here are slightly more in focus than these ones, so these are, I've held the airbrush back further. As I move into these, that's where I'm getting closer. Okay. So that is about done. I might pull a little bit more magenta on a couple of those. Well, he looks good how he is, because it doesn't really need it. I mean, at some point, I'm just making things more complicated than it needs to be. No, I do want a little bit more magenta, so I'm going to rinse this out. If you've got questions, leave them now. We'll be going over those at the end of the painting. And I want to talk about some of the worst art advice I think I've ever read. This magenta is going to be strong, so I need to just barely, let's see if I can not go out of control here. Just a little bit to tint some of the color. And when it's out of focus, it does not need to be, like if you're looking at my photo and you're like, oh, that's way different, it does not need to be the same. I think I'm even going to pull a little bit more dark purple into this. Okay, a couple drops of the dark. And the airbrush, I mainly use it for special effects, like out of focus backgrounds, or like, let's say there's a polar bear and he's got smoke, you know, not smoke, that's the wrong word, frost, or yeah, frost coming, frost, is that the right word? What is it? in the cold. I don't live in the cold. I don't know what you people call that. You can see his breath. I would do that with the airbrush. We're not trying to make this super precise here. This is all supposed to be out of focus. Okay, one more thing. I do want a couple highlights with white, and I also want that green. So let's clean this out. Run water through it again. Do the green. It only takes a few drops. It does not, like a little bit goes a long ways. Ooh, that mixed with magenta and made brown. That is not cute. I need to rinse that a bit better. We'll actually use brush cleaner or airbrush cleaner this time. I'm using the Createx airbrush cleaner. It's kind of my normal go-to. It's easy to get. All the art supply stores carry it. But all of the different airbrush cleaners, they're all fine. I've used most of them and they all work just fine. So whatever is on sale or cheap, that's what I'm going with. And this is why you always want to test your colors. Like you can see right now what my paper towel looks like, because that was supposed to be the color of this. Like that was not, there was just enough of that magenta left in there, even though I'd rinsed it, that it would not have been a fun time had I gone with that. Okay, now I need a teeny bit more white and we will call the background done. I'm really happy with how that came out in that amount of time. See, that's why I love how fast the airbrush is. You can get something like that done very, very quickly. And when you're trying to produce, well, live stream, obviously, we've got a bit of a time crunch there. But if you're trying to get a lot of work done, like you're getting ready for an art show, you can knock something like that out for your background that fast. And wait till you see how much it, like the bee will stand out so much. Like there's so much depth in this because of having this out of focus look. That was a little bit bold. Okay, I'm gonna rinse this out. We get to start with the traditional brushwork. So those of you who've been waiting for the next step because you weren't airbrushing, it is your turn. To clean this out pretty well. And if your airbrush gets completely clogged, I just take it and soak it in warm water with airbrush cleaner. Like I do like a 50-50 mixture. I just soak it for like an hour or so. Depends on how bad it is. And then wipe everything down. Okay, let's run some airbrush cleaner through. Nope, that's Vallejo Flow Improver. Where's my, the bottles look almost the exact same, so that would not have helped. And I can always go back. This isn't like, let's say you're working in watercolor and colored pencil. That's an actual mixed medium, so you would not want to put watercolor on top of the colored pencil. Like once you're done with watercolor, you are done with the watercolor stage once colored pencil started. With this, it's still acrylic paint. It's a different form, it's a different type of brush, but it is acrylic paint, so I can go back and forth. Let's say I wasn't sure, like, oh, I don't know if I want to change that background later. I can come back after I painted the bee in and make adjustments if I want to. It's not like a mixed medium where sometimes you can't do that if they don't play nice. It has no problem going back and forth. Okay, let me put all of these paints away. Oh. And my gum, I eat these frozen food things that come in these little plastic containers, but that seems so wasteful for like a plastic thing for a frozen food. Yeah, I keep them and use them in my paints. They're like easy to clean out. Like they are my favorite. I have a ton of these and I use them all the time. So yeah, if you kind of a fun little, I guess, upcycle. Is that what the cool kids still call it, or was that too old? but I don't have to buy, it's like two birds, one bowl. I don't have to buy extra containers. I just have a huge collection of those. And I can let that one completely dry out and it just like peels out and then use another one in the meantime. It's very convenient. Okay, so here is my palette. Notice that I've got a, oops, that's not the palette, that's the palette. I've got a wet paper towel in here. And the reason for that is because I put the paint out already by leaving a pretty wet paper towel and putting the lid on the Master's Touch, the Master's palette. It holds the glass, the New Wave glass palette. Links are in the video description. But because this is in here, that when I put the lid on it, it keeps any of this from even starting to dry out. It keeps the humidity up, so we are all good there. Now I've got most of the colors I need. I do need some titanium white. I don't think I need more than that. I always put out more than I need. And I got deep violet because it turns out the purple I grabbed was not the purple I needed. What I wanted was deep violet. That purple has white mixed in it. It is way too opaque. Okay, next. Were they for... I don't know what that is. Okay. So on to the bee. I'm going to start by just mapping things out. I'll just start with black and I may as well use a rake brush if I can find one. My brushes are kind of all over the place right now. So most of tonight's video will be brought to you by Lisa looking for her brushes. Actually, while I look for those brushes, this is a good time for a message from the boys. Without treats, these puppies are so sad. Your Patreon pledge of only $4 or more gives them cookies of happiness. Act now and the bad cow gets a treat too. Oh, and you also get over 300 art lessons and a new one every single week, plus other rewards. Sign up at patreon.com/Lachri. I have really got to make some new ads. Time, it's always an issue. What was the next thing we were going to do? I think it was kind of important. I wanted to show you something and now I can't remember what it was. I got distracted. I'm sure it'll come to me. Okay, so what I'm going to do is start by just painting the black in wherever that goes on the bee. I'm going to use a rake brush. This one is a 1/4 inch silver ruby satin filbert grass cone. I've got a video somewhere showing you how to use rake brushes. All the rake brushes that I use are listed in there. So I'm just going to start, I'll actually add a little bit of deep violet so it's not too like dead black. It just looks dull and flat if you use black by itself. So that is why we are going to start with this. So let's see, we've got, I need to zoom my reference photo in, which can be found on my website, by the way. Looks like a little bit of his eye is over here, but then this is kind of floofy. You've got to have a good balance of paint versus water to make this work. You're using it like a whole bunch. I can turn my airbrush off. Hold on. Let's see if I can do it with my foot like a monkey. That's not working. I will pull something. Okay. But the rake brush, what this is essentially, think of like your normal filbert brush. This is your filbert brush. A rake brush is this. So it's a whole bunch of little brush strokes in one brush. But it depends on how you use it, how much pressure you add. If you push too hard, it's just a filbert. If you load too much paint or too much water, it's just a filbert. If you don't load enough, it's just a filbert. So you've got to balance out how much paint versus how much water so that you can see these little lines. Actually, that was what I wanted. I do remember what I wanted to show you. I think the color, yeah. There's the color of the purples and pinks. There, you can really see there. That is not showing very well on the other camera, but the bee color should look accurate. Okay, so we've got, whoops, see? That's just a normal filbert, too much paint. Wipe some of that off. There we go. And now we've got the black. Will fade into more red oxide as we move back there. So I'm not going to put it on super heavy. Need a bit more water in that paint mix. And this is like a dark, dark plum. You really want to watch the direction of the floof. That is so important here. And that's really what I'm mapping out more than anything else here. Make sure it's going the right direction. See how it starts switching? I'm gonna reload a little bit more water. I can probably zoom in a bit more for you there. That'll work. Although now I can't see the painting because the camera is right in the way. So notice when I use the rake brush, I will usually wipe it on the board first, just to make sure I'm not too heavy. Although I could use a little bit more of that back. Okay, now I can start going a little bit more solid in here. We've got this really dark area, and then it'll fan out. And I'll put white over where I need more detailing. So if I go too dark, it's not a big deal. I'm going to add a bit of my red oxide in with this as I move out. It's going to lighten up. So it's, oh, I need more of the plum in that. That's too light. Now, whenever I use the rake brush, I'm still going to come through with a liner brush and define things a bit better. If you use just the rake brush, it's really common to have things look too uniform. It all looks too much the same. Wow, I'm just on top of the whole making really redundant statements. Like, let's see how many different ways I can repeat that. But it looks if it's too uniform, it doesn't look natural. So by coming back through with a liner brush for just a few of the brush strokes, it'll break it up. Remember, where I'm pushing harder, I'm not getting that fluff. And now I will need a row of this color in through here, but if I do that right now, it's not gonna, I have to put white over that anyway, so the timing on that, like, it just wouldn't work as far as the order of things. So we'll come up here, and it looks like my easel or my camera keeps freezing, so that's always extra lovely. Thank you for that, camera. Super helpful. Oh my gosh, stop freezing. Is it freezing on your end too? Are you guys seeing that? It's kind of in between. You would think just being the only camera running right now that it wouldn't have this issue, but nope. 4 cameras plugged in. It's gonna give me the finger. Wait, that was light, that is dark. Where do we have white, black? You are just part of this, I think. Losing my place here. So this is part of his leg sticking out. Yeah, it's freezing occasionally for you guys. Sorry, unfortunately, I can't fix that. I mean, I can reset it if it gets completely frozen. Just let me know. Like it's just nonstop. Completely frozen, nonstop. My gosh, see, I don't know what is with me. It is worse than normal tonight. I'm just rewording the same thing again and again. Like, you know what nonstop means. Why do I have to say, okay, rant done. Okay. And then we've got the dark, so I'm gonna rinse my brush, go back with the darker plum. And this is where I lost my place before. Okay, so this was definitely dark black. Stick my finger in that because I don't want it dark. Actually, I'm gonna remove this board because it's warped, which brings me to, I need to tell you about my watercolor story and what I'm doing, my solution to it. I'll have to tell you that after the painting's done. I bought some stuff. I got really angry and went on a shopping spree because of the anger for things warping. My bank account is a little angry itself for the amount I spent out of that anger movement. It'll be worth it. Just from what I've said so far, do any of you like have guesses as to what it was I went and bought? I've given you the clues of warped paper, frustration, and expensive. Now right now, all of this is really flat, like it's just dark. I'll come back through with the highlights later. Okie dokie, let's come through with a little bit of white on, actually, no, I'm gonna let that dry. Let's do the other white, or I just stopped being lazy and used the hairdryer. No, it was not watercolor canvas. That's what I have right now. It's not a new easel. And it's not plugged in. Okay, here. You can look at the boys while I climb under my easel, because for some reason this can never stay plugged in. Nope, not watercolor quality paper. I've got plenty of quality watercolor paper. It still warps because they tell you it's pre-stretched. You know what it's not? Pre-stretched. It's a dirty, dirty lie. Oh, I gave you another clue. So we've got the white. A little too thick there. Let's reload that with a bit more water. That was titanium white, right? Yeah. Sometimes I put out transparent mixing white instead of titanium white. That's always a fun surprise. This is way too thick of paint on it. There we go. Give him a really fluffy butt. See, I'm letting some of that green background show through, so it's like extra detail and shading without having to do extra detail and shading. Make life easier on yourself if you can. Now this is going to be yellow, but I need to paint it white, otherwise it will not be yellow over that background. So by putting white first, that's opaque, it covers my green, and that will let my yellow come out really yellow. I've often heard people complain that they thought their paint was not good enough because it wasn't opaque enough. It's just how you're layering it. Put white down, then you can put the color on top. My mom wants to know if she knows the answer of what I bought. Does she get the B? No, the B is for sale. Although because of what happened with the warped paper, I'm talking to my mom right now, you're getting the warbler and it's got the blue background, so you'll like that, blues and purples, and the hummingbird I just finished. So you're getting two things. Speaking of this bee, you can bid on him. He is on my website if you want a bumblebee. The auction is going for another hour. See, again, letting the greens show through. Now, for those of you doing the group challenge that I just posted over on Patreon, this is very similar to what I was talking about in that landscape. Look at the rows. It's the same with fur. You've got rows, and I don't mean lines, but your fur, same thing as in that landscape, things are moving in clumps and clusters and rows, and that's what you really want to watch in that group challenge. The rest of you who don't know what I'm talking about, I'm sorry. Give him his little fluffy legs. He did not shave for the winter. Now right now this is just white, so it doesn't look right. We will tone all that or clean all that up in a bit once we glaze color over it. Sometimes when you're using a rake brush, you just get the most perfect amount of paint versus water. This is one of those times. These brush strokes are coming out so perfect right now. Unfortunately, I have to reload it and try again. I ran out of paint. But there we go, same thing. Like just using that perfect light amount of pressure. And I have just the right amount of paint versus water on that brush. Too much or too little, and it's not gonna work for you. You could do all of this with a liner brush, it just takes a while. I would say the liner brush is probably easier though. It's much easier to control. It can be quite difficult to get a natural look with the rake brush. And that's one of the reasons that I like the filbert rake brushes versus the flat. The flat edge, where it's just like straight across versus the rounded like this, the flat edge, it is really difficult. Like each brush stroke is way too harsh. So we've got a little bit more of a solid look. It'll just glaze over once we do the wings. Also, if he doesn't sell, I think I'm keeping him for myself. This guy is cute. He would look cute on my wall. I may have to paint, if he does sell, I'm gonna have to paint a big fluffy bee for myself for sure. Like, I really like the size of this where you can see all the detail of the fluff. This is gonna be the highlight that I'm doing right now, so we'll be glazing over that. It's not gonna stay white. Well, really, most of this isn't. Fluffy leg. Now, anywhere where I need it to be really bold yellow, I'm gonna put a little bit more white or so that the yellow stands out even more. Because right now you can see where that green is showing through. That's gonna be more muted where I put the yellow, which is good on some areas, but the areas that need to be like really bold, like down here, I need that to be more opaque. So I'm gonna put that white on a bit thicker. Throw some longer fluff on his rear because it's adorable. Okay, I'm going to dry this and we're going to glaze some yellows over this. And then we'll do the wings. Well, we've actually got a lot of glazing to do before I can start the wings. Oh, I'm about to knock all the brushes off my easel. Whew, that would not be fun. Now I've got, because I tend to do that, I got a little bit of paint. Oh, it's on my wrist. I made a mess. So I want to see first if this is still wet enough that I can wipe it off. Otherwise, I'll just airbrush over it tomorrow and clean it up. Depends on if it dried. It did not dry yet, so I'm able to, you can't see it, there's a little mark here, and all I'm doing to fix it is taking a brush with a bit of water and rubbing that off. Now the reason that works is that wasn't dry. If it was dry, then I just need to paint over it. And to paint over it, I would have done the airbrush because that would keep that soft look. But I need to get the paint off the side of my hand so I don't keep spreading that. So just a bit of water and a paper towel. How I managed to stick the whole side of my wrist in paint, I do not know. It's a talent. It's funny because when I paint with oils, I'm super clean. Like I do not get paint where it does not belong very often with oils. Acrylics, I think it's just that, like I get too comfortable knowing it's fine, it'll dry right away, it's not gonna make a mess, but then I make a mess. I don't ever have that happen with oil though. Okay, clean enough. Did I dry that? I don't remember. Okay, we're going to set that to the side. If you do not have a dedicated hair dryer, like just go get some cheap, whatever you can find for your easel. It is so convenient. I used to take the one for my hair back and forth between the easel. This one just hangs here. It's here all the time, always ready to go. It always unplugs itself, but it is always here. Okay, now we're going to start adding some yellow. I'm going to start with a bright yellow first. We can make it darker easily, but it's a lot harder to lighten back up, so I'm just glazing right over that. Yellow is very translucent on its own, so I don't need to add a ton of water to get that effect. But the more water you add, the more translucent it will be. Despite some old-timers' belief system, and that seems to be what it is. People from the past, younger artists seem to not have such an issue with this, but I think the older folks were just told for too long, don't mix water with acrylic paints, it's binding and bonding and it won't. And then there's a YouTube video that tells people that, and the man was arguing with me about it recently, who doesn't paint, but in theory, anyway, you can mix water. You can mix almost any amount. You would have to mix like 95% water to paint before it would start to have an issue bonding or binding to the paper. You are perfectly fine to mix or thin your paint down with as much water as you want. Like no one's going to use 90 to 95% water. There'd be no reason to. So you are perfectly fine doing that, even though some folks will try to insist you cannot. Like the video that turned her comments off here on YouTube. That seems super, she seems like I don't know. It seems dishonest when people are like, hey, that video is not true. But she makes so much money off of it. Just turn the comments off, it's fine. That video gives me, like, that has been such a headache because every time I start showing people how to add water to the paint, I always inevitably get the question, I heard you couldn't do that. And it's because of that video. Like, it's not the artist's fault for not knowing. No, the artist asking me, it's not their fault for not knowing. It's the videos they watch. The person who made the videos and leaves it up, spreading completely false information. That's what drives me crazy. Oh, thank you, Tessa, for the super chat. It says, time for a treat. You know, this is a good time. Boys, oh, look, they already know. Wow, Gibson is my genius. Wade's like, I don't know what's happening right now. What's happening? You want a treat too? You guys have to back up. You are way too close to the camera. These are the good treats too, your premium jerky cut things. Back up so they can see your cute faces. Stay. Good boy. Ow, that was fingers. Thank you, Wade. And Gibson will take it to his bed and drool all over. No more, Wade. Go lay down. Wade, go lay down. Get. Lay down. There you go. Good cow. That's a good bad cow. No, Gibson, there's no more. Lay down. Say thank you, Tessa. Lay down. Lay down. Oh my gosh, seriously. Today. Gibson. Oh, you're going to stretch on the way down. Slowest race dogs ever. This is why you failed racing school. Gibson. Today. My gosh, dog. Wow. He was just going to take his sweet time with that. Okay. Slow boys. I mean, sort of. Slow boys, but good. Okay, we're going to start adding some of the red oxide. I'm going to get this darker, and then I'm going to have to come back through with highlights on top of that, but we'll start with this. This also works well for parts of the wing. And we'll do part of the leg. Actually, I want that to be a bit more brown, so I'm going to pull from where I had mixed black in with that. And then I'm going to take that same brownish tone in here. I can put it in here, but it needs to be light. Now, one of the things that's really nice with using a canvas like this that's so smooth, you can dry brush, which is almost what I just did right there, but it does not look like dry brushing. I do not, there are very rare cases I like the look of dry brushing with acrylics. More often than not, it just looks like you don't know how to paint with acrylics. Like it's a technique they teach you in books for beginners, like it's some great thing. It's not. It looks bad. Like it almost always, there are exceptions, there always are, but the nice thing when you're using a canvas that's this smooth, you can pretty much do that easy, simple dry brushing technique, and it doesn't even look like it. Pull that a little bit further out. I'm just using a filbert here. We've got to start building up the depth. So I'm going to start pulling some magenta into this as well. It's a little too magenta. Let's go with the magenta that was mixed with, or where I had that plum. Oh, that's way too much black. Mixing my red oxide and a little bit of black and the deep violet, which I just called magenta, but it's actually deep violet. That gives me a nice brownish tone. That's what I want. That magenta was just a little too high. I'm here. Right at the edge between that black and the yellow. And we're going to put a little bit out here too. He's got part of his little antenna shows there, and with the way the light is hitting it, will not be completely black. This one will have black go over it. But we'll start with just a base there. Okay, I'm going to rinse that, and I'm going to pull some, actually need the purple dioxazine, which I do not have the paint out right now. So what I will do is take the airbrush paint, and I'm just going to put a little bit of the airbrush paint, because that's what I used in the background. Ultramarine blue would also work, but I'm not going to use that because I didn't use it in the background. If I didn't use it in the background, I'm not pulling a new color just for highlights, if I can avoid it. Now, if I did not have purple in the background, let's say it was all green, then I would go ahead and pull in the blue. But because I had used the purple before, I am going to use that for the highlights on the black here. Stop chewing. I know grass makes you itchy. That time of year where the grass starts growing and the dogs get it, well, Wade gets itchy. Let's add a little bit of white to that. We've got a lighter area back here. Same thing, I'm just dry brushing that. So it looks all smooth, but it does not even look like it was dry brush. Now I need to do a glaze. Let's find a color for the wing. We'll do some yellow, some red oxide, and some white. Now remember, when you're doing a glaze with, actually, you know what? I'm gonna cheat. It's not really cheating. I'm just gonna make my life easier and find my transparent mixing white, which I had earlier and thought, oh, I don't need this. I'll put it away, but I don't remember where I put it away. Nope, that's titanium white. I may just do it with my normal opaque white then. I do not know. Oh wait, it was sitting right next to me the whole time. So the transparent mixing white will lighten it without making it, so I'm going to start my batch over again. It'll lighten it without making it more opaque. UPS messaged me to tell me my new sea urchin is on the way. Yay! There we go. This is getting closer. I'm going to put a little bit of magenta in that too. I don't need perfect. I just need something that's kind of lighter, a little translucent. Let's see how that looks. It's probably too light. No, it's, oh, that's perfect. I love it. Did not expect that. I was pretty sure I was going to have to mix another color. And so what I'm doing is dry brushing again. It's kind of a glaze, but kind of a dry brush. And just tinting that. I want some of the green to show through, so I'm going to dab some of that up. I'm not trying to cover it completely. I've got to fix this because his body should continue this way, and I missed that when I shaded that in. So I've got to darken up here. Pull some of his floof up. And what was the next thing? The yellow. Some yellow and white. I've got to throw white in there or it is not going to show up. I could do a base of white or I can mix the two right now just because it's behind the wing. I'm just going to mix them. So this is a bit more of a solid look. We don't want to see all the fluff. We want to see the fluff there. The starting bid on this guy is $65. I would normally sell this for probably $150, $175. So you're talking about a major savings if you are interested in a Bumblebee. Let's see, we need to get some of that purple for the shadow now under the white. So we've thinned that down with water. Just a little bit there. Okay, now I'm going to start focusing on the wings. I've still got to come back and do some detailing on the body as well. So being that I'll have the liner brush out, we'll just do all that kind of at the same time. So I need a darker brown. So mixing my red oxide and black together. You can just use brown paint if you've got it. I don't even buy it anymore because at least with the Liquitex Basics, it tends to get chunky and I just don't go through fast enough before it starts getting chunky. So I just mix it with red oxide and black because I use both of those a lot. You know what? I should stop being stupid and putting my hand in wet paint. Let's try this. So now is when we start putting like that tiny, like the real detail that gives you that, it makes the background look so out of focus. Camera is totally in my face. Kind of makes it difficult to see what I'm doing there. And where I want it to fade out, I'll just put a little paint, take a clean brush, just slightly damp, and just smudge that out. So we have a whole section here that would smudge out. So you have that softer look. So some of these are a very harsh line and some are just, it fades into a sort of shadow. And I don't care if I have all these lines exact. Close is close enough. But I still want it based mostly on the photo. And just look at your reference photo. Now the thing that makes the wing look shiny, it's going to be that high contrast between our lights and our darks. So it will feel scary, but when you back away and look at it, you get that really pretty shiny look. Put a little bit of the brown, and then I'm going to smudge that. And that's a little too thick of a line, so I'm just going to thin that out. I'm going to even throw a little here, but I'm going to pull it in so it looks really translucent along that edge. Okay, I'm going to put the darks in the other wing before I come back through with the highlights. I'm going to smooth some of these out so it's not just a straight harsh line there. And these lines will overlap, but they're way too harsh, so I'm going to take that brush and we'll push that back, but lighten them up. Perfect. We've got a shadow that comes along the edge, so I'll put the line, and I'm going to take that clean, slightly damp brush and smudge it out. The more detail you want, it's easier. If you like a lot of detail, work larger. That will make your life much easier. Like if I was trying to do this on a 5x7, doing these little lines would be a bit of a pain. Possible, but not as enjoyable. Unless you like miniatures. Some people like that. You also want to remember, if you're making prints of your work, you do not want your prints to be larger than the original. So if you're thinking, oh, I'll just blow this up, I'll take a good high quality photo, use a DSLR, it'll be a huge photo, and then I can just print it larger. It will look like crap. It will look like absolute crap. When you try to take a photo that is small and make it bigger, the information is just not there. You're asking the computer to, or the camera, or the program, whatever you're doing, you're asking it to add information that it just isn't there. So it'll look kind of out of focus, kind of blurry. That's not an issue of the printer. It's not an issue of the camera. It's an issue of your print should not be larger than your original. That's why if you look at my print shop, some of my prints, I've got like 30 by 40 inch sizes, and some of them I've only got 8 by 10s. And it's just dependent on what the original was. You can get away with a little bit larger, and it's not a huge deal, but the larger you go, the worse that starts to become. That line was way too thick, so all I have to do is thin that out. We're just going to push that back. And now it's nice and thin. Okay, let's start pulling some of the highlights and then more details. So I'm just going to use my titanium white. I'm not using transparent mixing white because I do want this to be opaque. We're going to start making some dots and little highlight lines. At this really high contrast, that makes it look shiny. some dots where the light is catching the edge of the not the feather, the wing there. Wrong animal. Now we'll get some of these little hairs that are a bit thicker than the liner brush was, or not the liner, the rake brush was, a bit more defined. Same thing, we'll pull a few in here. And they still move in those rows. See how they're clumped and clustered together. So just like that, the Patreon group challenge I was talking about earlier. These hairy knees. You should not wear shorts, sir. I want to get some more of the defined little butt hairs coming out here. Wow, that is so something that could be taken out of context. His bum hairs? Nope, still sounds bad. I'm just using my titanium white here. Bee butt fuzzies is what Nick says. And he's a beekeeper, so he would know. The technical term must be bee butt fuzzies. That is a way nicer way than what mine sounded like. Make sure these cluster. If it comes out a little too white, I can go back over and glaze some. I just want to get that detail back in there. Oops, that is way too light. There we go. And we've got a whole darker area back here. Or not darker, lighter. Words are hard. Almost done, and we'll get to your questions. Talk about some of the worst art advice I've read. That's how you know I've been spending some time on Reddit. So I'm going to add a little bit more of this kind of grayish brown tone. Too dark, more white. And I want to pull a little bit more yellow in a couple of these spots and we will be done. He's cute. He looks better in person. The color saturation is not quite there with the purple. Actually, I just saw something else I need to fix. Huge spot that needed more detail. I'm just going to glaze a little bit of yellow on a couple of these spots. And it'll go right over those white areas, so it really makes that detailing show up better. I think he is about done. I like how this guy came out. Do I need a little bit? Yeah, I do. One more thing I want to do. You had to know if it was a bee, I was going to want to spend extra time on it. I just like painting bees. So I'm going to pull a little bit more fluff from the black paint so it overlaps the other colors now that the other ones are in. Just need to thin that with a decent amount of water. So if you look closely, I'm just overlapping a little bit so he's even fluffier. A little bit more, almost done. Okay. And then he will be varnished with Liquitex High Gloss Varnish. I'll make a video, you'll see that in the next day or two of that. But I am really happy with him. He looks super cute. Let me pull this back out. You can see the whole painting there. Let me get him here so you can see the color a bit better. You're more of these pinks and purples. Like the color saturation is really pretty on those purples. It just doesn't pick up on that. You can really see it doesn't pick up on the other camera. So that is what you are bidding on. If anybody bids, I'm not going to be terribly unhappy if I have to keep him though, because he is adorable. Okay, let me clean this up. My brushes are falling in the water where they're not supposed to be. And then, okay. We also, if we have time, I still haven't opened my Blick box. We can do a box opening too, if we get through questions and stuff soon enough. So let me put a lid on my easel or my palette. Again, if you want to bid on this guy, you'll need to head over to my website. I'll show him a few times through the questions because he unfortunately just doesn't look nearly as pretty on that camera as he does here. Those colors. And then when I look here though, the blacks don't look quite as dark as they do in person. Once I varnish it, that is going to really stand out. So yeah, nice spring painting there. And then the way that you would frame these, an easy way, let me see if I can find one. You can get a normal, like had them in here. Are they not here now? Yeah, but it's not open. You can go to any, get yourself a cheapy frame. It's just an 8x10. So you don't need to go get anything custom. Get a normal 8x10 that has, oh, I thought I had one over here. I don't know where it is, but that has just like the glass in it and the little tabs. You just remove the glass, use the tabs to hold this in place. Now you can hang it. Like that's it. It is the easiest. Canvas boards are so easy to frame. So your option are, wow, can't talk. Your options for displaying this is either going to be like if you've got a shelf, you can set it on the shelf so he's balanced like against the wall, or because you don't have anything to hang it otherwise, or simple, cheap 8x10 that has a glass like your regular family photo frames that you get at anywhere, and pop the glass out, stick him in. That's it. That's all you have to do to frame it. Super easy. You don't need to go through the trouble of getting the open frame like you would for a normal stretched canvas. So it's quite a bit easier to frame these. Okay. Yes. So we will do the box opening. I'm out of breath now from moving around. I'm out of shape is what I am. Let's see. Yes, Nick, I am ready for questions. You can send those while I go over I have to pull it up because I don't remember where it went. I want to actually read the comment. So I was looking at problems that people were having over on Reddit, like just random art troubles, and reading the questions that people came up with. And I actually think I may start a new comment section, like segment of these live streams, because it would be kind of fun to go through some common questions and questionable answers that people give them when it comes to art and art business. And you're just like, oh, no. But I think we may have to do that sometime soon. Did I save it to drafts? So here was the quote. Somebody was asking, they were asking about social media and art, but it would apply to anything with art, anything in life. The comment was, with enough luck, anything is possible. Is winning the lotto also your retirement plan? Because it's about as stupid. Or you just like the same thought process of waiting for the government to fix your life. Like those are things that just don't work out. Don't sit around waiting for somebody else to solve your problems. Hold on. Speaking of solving my own problem here, my keyboard's covered. When you're waiting for luck, you're waiting for somebody else, waiting for something to fix your problems, to make your life better, to improve your art, to grow on social media. This isn't luck. It's not luck. It's put in the work. Yeah, you'll occasionally have a one-off that seemed to randomly get lucky and you're not sure why, but usually they were doing a lot of work behind the scenes you just weren't aware of. And it goes for everything with your art. You're not going to make it as an artist because you were lucky and the right person happened to see your art. This is a very, very common misconception. Bands used to do this, like being an actress, being seen in the right place in Hollywood by the right person. You'd get lucky and then you'd get jobs, and trust me, that wouldn't even be lucky getting into that industry. But that was kind of the concept. Same thing with bands. Right person hears your music, they start playing it on the radio, and you're going to get lucky and famous that way. Nothing in this world is that way anymore. Like, it really isn't, because you can do it on your own. We don't need to find the right gallery to find our work. We don't need the right person to see our work to do well. If you want to do well with art, you want to do well with social media, you're going to put in the work. You're going to make it happen. You don't wait for somebody else. Another common thing I see is if you can get somebody who's well known, somebody else who has a lot of followers to share your work, that'll get you well known. That will get you attention. No, it won't. You'll get, like, maybe you'll gain a couple hundred. That is nothing. That isn't going to do you any good. It may help a little bit initially, but unless you continuously post, unless you continuously work, having somebody famous who saw your work, you're not going to live off that. It's not going to last you long term. I also see people who think they just have to do one or two good paintings and they'll put a year into a single painting and they're going to ride the success wave of that. No. Also, no, you have to continuously put in the work. You may have one thing, like this idea of going viral. You may have one thing go super viral, one post, one video, one piece of work that was so creative. If you do not keep up, you're forgotten quickly. You have to keep producing that level of work, that same level of creativity, that same level of music. It would be the same thing. You have to keep producing more music. You don't just, I mean, how many one-hit wonders can you think of? A lot. You can't usually remember their names anymore, but I mean, how many of them are there? Even if you went viral on a single video or a single painting got shared a million times, it doesn't do you any good. You have to consistently put in the work. Sitting around waiting to get lucky and have the right person look at your art, the right person, that it just isn't how the world works, and especially not with art. You have to get yourself in front of the right people. And I say that, and it would be like, well, then that's lucky. No. You're going to do the footwork. You're going to put your work in front of so many people that some of those are going to want to buy your stuff. It's as simple as that. The more people you can get your stuff, more eyes you can get on your work, the more likely you are to find the buyers who are interested in what you're creating. And you have to create good things. So going back, I know I'm kind of mixing two things, your painting skill along with like social media and art business and that sort of thing. But you have to, well, you have to do everything, and it applies to everything. You have to do work on all of that. You have to keep posting. You have to keep painting. You have to keep improving your own skills. That's another thing. I see a lot of people think that they're going to paint. Let me reword that. Look at the work that does really well and that gets shared a lot on social media, or videos that do really well on social media. Usually the artists have not only put themselves out there as far as their personality, and people can kind of connect to that, they told a story, but the work is usually really amazing. You want to get to where you perfect that, you get really good with that. And we all start at zero, so don't feel like you're never going to get there. You will. It will feel like you're never going to get there in the beginning, but you will get there. But you have to put in the work. If you're sitting around waiting for luck, it's the equivalent too. I mean, a lot of people sit around waiting to be in the mood to paint. I'm going to wait for my muse to hit. Yeah, that's not a thing. I mean, yeah, occasionally you're in the mood, but for the most part, if you want to be successful with art, you're going to get off your butt, you're going to head to the easel whether you're in the mood or not. That is what being an artist is. It's not if you're going to be a professional artist. I should specify that. You can do that if you're doing it as a hobby, just paint when you're in the mood. Doesn't matter there. But if you're doing this and you're trying to make a career out of this, you're trying to go somewhere with it, you have to put in the work whether you're in the mood or not. You're not going to sit around and wait for motivation to hit you. You're not going to sit around and wait to get lucky enough. Wow, that grammar was how many filler words did I need? You're not going to wait to get so lucky that the right person sees your work. It's not going to do you any good. Even if the right person, let's say you painted something of an actor or an actress and they saw it and they shared it with all their people. Great. People are like, okay, that's cool. They might follow you. They're going to unfollow you again very, very short. You know, they're not usually going to follow you long term unless you just keep painting the actress that they like nonstop. Those aren't necessarily your target audience. So it's more important too. Keep this in mind. I know a lot of people reading a lot of these posts on Reddit, they're complaining about not getting enough views. You don't need all the views. You don't need the most views. You need the views from the people who like what you're creating. Trying to get yourself popular with everybody isn't going to work. Focus on the people who really like your art and produce things like that will make them happy. So that is my advice. Waiting around for luck, waiting around to be in the mood, waiting for your muse, waiting for something else that's outside of your control to positively affect your life is a terrible plan. It is the worst advice. You take control. You go make it happen. Okay, that is my rant of all of that stuff. Let's go through questions and then we'll do the box opening also. We'll tell you now what happened with my recent watercolor painting. So it came out cute. I had fun. My whole goal with that was just to play with way too much detail. Oh, and I put way too much detail. It was just a blast. That lesson will be up tonight or tomorrow. It's recorded. I just have to post it over on Patreon. But the paper that I used so much water and it dried at a different rate because of painting the background separate from the hummingbird, and I didn't use as much water when I did that. It was just so badly warped, and that is my second painting this year I'm not going to sell because it is so warped. Unless the person saw it in person, it actually doesn't look bad in person. But I also, and when I show one on video, it looks worse than it looks in person. So it's kind of a hard thing to, like the photo, like if someone doesn't see it in person, I'm not selling it. So screw it, she's sending it to my mom. But the point is, it was so warped and I was so frustrated because I know how to stretch paper. I won't do it. I hate doing it. That you use gum tape. So for those of you who are unaware of how you would size or how you stretch watercolor paper, soak it in distilled water for like 5, 6, 7 minutes, right around there, till it kind of flops over. And this is about how long it takes for 140 pounds, which is what I typically work on. So you can soak it in that until it softens. You put it on your flat board. You take gum tape and you tape it around the edge. Problem with the gum tape, not only is it a pain because you have to get it wet and you don't want to get it too wet or you remove the glue, you put that around, you tape it. Half the time that is a failure. It fails on you as often as it works. So then you take staples and staple around the edge and you're just like, this is too much work. and then you wait for it to dry overnight. I am not doing that. I don't have time for that. And I've wanted to buy for a while. Mind of Watercolor is like an 8-year-old video, so I don't know if he still uses it or still likes it or tried it or whatever, but I think it's called Auto Stretchers, OTTO stretchers, something like that. I don't know, crazy expensive. And so I could never justify it because I really didn't have that big of a problem with my paper warping. And so I put it off and I put it off, and then twice in this year, and we just now hit, are we spring? Have we hit spring yet? I don't know, we hit it early here in Texas. I was like, that's it, I'm done. I'm ordering them. I'm just going to pull it out of my art savings and go buy these. I bought all 4 sizes. It was like $275. So yeah, my wallet's like, ow. But if I'm going to stretch it, I'm going to use this in it. So it's a device that locks down the wood. It uses wood clamps around the board and locks that in place. So you're not dealing with the staples. You're not dealing with the gum tape. And that's my biggest issue with sizing paper, or stretching paper. So this takes the part that I have the biggest issue with, completely removes that. So I will do a review once I've used it a bit, but I'm gonna start stretching anything where I'm gonna do an airbrush background, anything where I'm going to use masking fluid. Masking fluid warped it horribly. That was actually what caused the problem in one of the other ones. Sometimes I paint so much airbrush paint, that'll do it. In the case with the watercolor, I just use so much watercolor. Now you may be thinking, why don't you just use thicker watercolor paper like the 300 pound? I have it, I still manage to warp that. Like if I'm gonna warp it, I'm gonna warp it. Even that one. And that one isn't as severe. Like the problems that I had with these 2 pieces, had I used 300 pound watercolor paper, and I'm kicking myself for not, but I didn't realize it was gonna warp that bad. If I had used that, it would have been so minor compared to what happened with the 140 pound watercolor paper. But that was kind of I'm done, I've had it, I'm gonna invest in the product. And you kind of think, well, maybe you should just get one and see if you like it. Nope, I'm going to use it, and I'm going to learn how to use it, and I'm going to learn to like it, because I'm sure as heck not going to bother with gum tape and staples. So that is my story. Okay, now let's go on to the questions. Actually, Not Happening said, when you stretch it, it will no longer buckle. If it does, it's super minor, like super. I'll tape it while I work so it stays flat. When I dry it, it should be fine, but not like what I'm experiencing. I mean, I've got these waves and buckling that it is so severe. So it depends on how well, I guess, you stretched it. But because you've got this timing of how long to soak it, because you can hit to where you soaked it too long, not enough, like it's a whole thing. So you've got the timing factor, and there can affect that some, the paper can affect some, but it should minimize it as much as humanly possible. Like it should be very, very little. Okay, where is Discord? Violet Sky said, do you ever get a chance to paint for yourself? Also, what is your favorite artwork that you've done, and did you keep it? Ooh, good questions. Yeah, I paint for myself. I mean, well, okay. Mostly I would say I paint for myself. Like it's a combination of for myself and, okay, I painted too many. If I did it all for myself, it'd mostly be marine life and surrealism. But then I start getting complaints on Patreon, like, I want a still life. Actually, that's one coming up soon. Somebody requested a still life in acrylics. But I start to do too many fish or too many things. That's kind of my bigger interest, whales and dolphins. And there are a lot of people on Patreon for whatever. I think you're questionable taste if you don't want to paint nonstop fish or dolphins. Actually, I guess that's my questionable taste. But a lot of people, want birds and animals with fur and other things. So I have to mix in what I want with that. But a lot of what I paint is mine, that I'm like, that's mine, I'm keeping it. The warbler I recently did with mushrooms, it's mine, I'm keeping it. That's going on my dining room wall. There's a few, what do I have in here? Actually, all this is for sale. Yeah, none of this is really like not available. But I have quite a few that I have kept for me. What have I kept for me? What's my favorite that I've kept? The lion that is roaring and his mane is made out of coral and he's got fish. That is probably my favorite. That's mine. That's not for sale. It's hanging on in my living room wall. I've also got the flamingo with the octopus that is in the water crawling up his leg, and then the moths. That's for me. That's outside my office wall. That one is not available. Like prints are available of all of those. And then I think those, and then there's a flamingo on a big round one, a flamingo that had bees, and the lighting on that flamingo, it's got the gray background. I love that. That one's not for sale. That one's definitely for me. So most everything else is for sale, but those are like for me. Oh, and the sea turtles. There's a long thin one with the sea turtles I kept. Okay. Tina said, question, is golden high flow acrylics for airbrush, and do you still have to thin it, or is it good straight out of the bottle with a little flow improver? I can't talk. Straight out of the bottle, little flow improver, 2 drops of flow improver, and that's just so that your needle doesn't get clogged. It's not that it's actually thinning the paint. So I guess I should clarify that. But yeah, I just straight out of the bottle. It is the perfect, it's thinned down the exact right amount. It's perfect. Huge fan of that paint. Let's see. I'm just wondering, once you do the background with airbrush for colored pencil piece, do you ever use sanded paper with airbrush or only with absorbent paper? You absolutely could airbrush on sanded paper, but I definitely prefer the look of airbrush when it's smooth paper, because with sanded paper, it's bumpy, it's a little rigid. And so the airbrush kind of catches a little bit weird. It ends up looking a little bit more grainy, like you can see where it caught the tooth of the paper. It's still gorgeous. You absolutely can use an airbrush with that. And I know the Lux Archival can handle it just fine. I've not used it, probably should do a video with that. But it can handle it, no problem. But, because the airbrush, you're not soaking, it's not getting super, super wet, so you wouldn't have any problems there. But yeah, you could use it on that. It'll stick fine. I like it on watercolor paper the best, or actually, the hot press watercolor paper is my favorite, but the watercolor canvas board is still so smooth that it's probably my next favorite. And then I would say acrylic primed Belgian linen after that. Heather said, wonder if you could water down Inktense enough to use it through the airbrush. I have. I did it with a red panda. That video is somewhere here on YouTube, but I did use it. It was different. It didn't dry right away. It was really interesting. It was a cool effect, but it was like it stayed wet for a little bit longer, and so it got to where the paper was getting too wet and it would start to run, so I had to stop and take the hairdryer to it to dry it and then go back over it again. It was... To get it thin enough to work made it super, super, super translucent, so it took several layers to get it to work, right? But it did work. So definitely a possibility. Violet Sky said, have you done an acrylic pour in a while? I have not. I do need to, and I have all the stuff. Well, I don't know, for all I know, it's dried up. But yeah, not for a live stream. There's no way I would do it in a live stream. Way too messy. The way that I set up to protect the floors, to protect the trash bags everywhere, it's done on the floor. It's not a live stream project, that's for sure. Skylar said, do you have any knowledge to why Michaels across DFW are not carrying Grumbacher paint anymore? I don't have specific knowledge to them, but I did talk to people who were in Hobby Lobby. This was probably 10 years ago. And all of these companies at the time, they'd been selling their own house brand for a while. They're all pushing towards selling very little name brand good quality, and they're selling their cheap, made in China, absolute terrible crap house brand everything. Hobby Lobby's doing it, Michaels is doing it, I think Joann's did it. They used to all have Frederick's canvases. Most of them don't carry that anymore. They carry their brand, and their brands are crap. Warped stretcher bars, paint won't stick to the canvas like someone got oil all over. I mean, I have had so many problems. Holes, the canvases kept ripping that were like, should have been thick enough, that wouldn't have happened. I've had that happen on watercolor canvases, even with, I don't think I did it with Frederick's actually. I think it was always the Hobby Lobby ones, now that I think about it. But like even the ones that would have been the equivalent of a Blue Label canvas, I put a hole through that once. Super frustrating. Like weirdly easy. And the reason that the hole happened is I was trying to remove the middle stretcher bar because I got that canvas. This is before now I always have lots of canvases ready to go all the time. But at the time, this was what made that happen. It was my only canvas. I wanted to paint that night. I was so excited to get started. It was my first YouTube video of a painting. It was of my Italian Greyhound when I had her Jessie with the flowers. And her head's kind of sticking out a window. And I was just so excited to get started on this project. I get home. I go to do it, and I noticed that the stretcher bar was warped in on that center divider. So I'm like, well, I'll just remove that. It's not that, it was a 18 by 24, I think. It was an 18 by 24. It could have been a 24 by 30, but I'm pretty sure it was an 18 by 24. And I'm like, it doesn't need a middle stretcher bar, I'll just remove it. In removing it, I put a hole. It like slipped and went right through the canvas, and I didn't hit it hard enough that should have happened. And that is not the first canvas I put a hole through. So, and those were all the generic Hobby Lobby, but there's just so many, any of those generic, I don't like Blix, I don't like any of their generic products like that. Their brushes I do like, but not canvases, not paints. And a lot of these companies now are saving money by selling their house brand because they said that their art department makes them the least amount of money. But what they're not realizing is one of the reasons so much of their crappy home decor is selling, looking at you, Hobby Lobby, is because people came in to get a tube of paint and then they're like, oh, here's this crappy home decor. I'm going to take that with me. Sometimes it's kind of cool. I have enough of it here. I understand. But it's also not long, like, they aren't pieces. They all break. They all, like, I've got this cute chicken statue. Yeah, his tail's just falling off. Like, it's not resin. Maybe it is resin. It's just crap. Looks like it's supposed to be wood. It's not. It's crap. And it's breaking for no apparent reason. So, and I've had so much of that with a lot of their crap. So that's why I'm talking bad about their cheap, crappy home decor. It's super cute. And it's not going to last you. Never buy furniture from Hobby Lobby, by the way. That is overpriced, horrible crap. That stuff is like made out of the same material. I think they make like paper airplanes and kites and crap from. But anyway, they thought that and so many companies do this. I've seen Michael do this before. Our classes aren't making us money, so we're going to stop doing classes. Yeah, but those classes were selling the art supplies. People would come in for a class and they would buy, hundreds of dollars worth of art supplies for that class. And the people who were higher up making these decisions in corporate don't work in the stores enough to know how these things tie together. It's kind of like when YouTube decided that they were going to stop sending out emails letting you know when I upload a video. Not me personally, but everybody. You no longer get those videos because they decided, well, no one really opens those because you can see how often they get opened. No one opens them. They don't need to. They see the email, they go straight to the app. That doesn't mean that that email wasn't beneficial. That's why I started sending out this year when I started live streaming again. I send out an email 5 minutes before the live stream goes live because obviously YouTube's not going to remind you. So these companies, these bigger corporations, a lot of them are doing that where they're just not looking at the big picture. They're looking at a small thing going, oh, the art supplies section doesn't make much money. You know what? I think the best solution is to get rid of the good stuff and bring in all of the lower end crap. Well, good job. I will order online now. Now I have no reason to even go into a Hobby Lobby. Occasionally I go into a Michael's, but I have no reason to go into your store to buy art supplies, which means there is no chance of me going in there and buying that cheap home decor crap you're trying so hard to push onto everybody, which is where you make more of your money. So, because the markup on that stuff is insane. The baskets and all of that. They're missing the point of, well, now I don't come in at all. Now I don't buy anything because you don't sell the one product that an artist would want, any of the name brand stuff. So anyway, I know this was a lot of talking to explain why they're not carrying it. I can't say specifically on the Grumbucker, but I know that most art supply stores were moving that way. We're going to sell our own house brand, but the house brands are student grade crap. So if you're a professional artist and you want anything good, you're going to be buying it online. So Dick Blick is where I normally shop now, occasionally Jerry's. Good job, Hobby Lobby. I don't go to your store anymore. Also, your employees at the one by me are jerks. Not the cashiers. They're actually really nice. It's the frame department and the manager. Like, so rude to customers. Anyway, moving on. That was a lot of words. Tina said, is Liquitex fluid acrylic good in an airbrush? I have never tried it for that, so I'm not sure. Why didn't you use gouache instead of acrylic? Just wanting to understand the differences. So totally different medium. And I do want to buy gouache because gouache is just opaque watercolor. It is watercolor, but opaque, whereas watercolor is translucent. Otherwise, same thing. So the way that you layer with gouache is not the way that you layer with acrylic. So they're just two different mediums, but I do want to get some. But I just spent way too much money on my watercolor stretcher bar, so I am cut off. Brittany said, how do you prevent other people from stealing the artwork you sell on your website just to claim it as theirs and to own, or change the way the artwork looks and then say they came up with the artwork on their own? So for me, it's really easy because all of my stuff is uploaded to YouTube. And whether it be a member's video, like so much of that is online that I can prove the date of when mine was created. So it's never been an issue. I mean, people copy my stuff all the time because I'm teaching you how to do lessons. So it is very common for somebody to copy it and not credit me. Like, hey, look at my great idea. Yeah, that was my great idea, but okay. I don't really normally care that much. I mean, I'd rather get credit, obviously, but whatever. I'm teaching lessons. It's expected. Is it cool? No, but whatever. I'm teaching lessons. It's expected. I'm not going to get too upset about that. But as far as stealing it, what I have had happen are companies, I've seen it on YouTube, or not YouTube, on Facebook, where and they did have it on their own website as well, where they took my paintings and made like a quilt out of it with some other artists. And yeah, they did not have the right to do that. So I had to go through PayPal to have that taken down, although PayPal screwed that up and they canceled my account. No, them. They're the ones violating my copyright, you dumb. Almost swore. So anyway, donkeys. So yes, that was a thing. But as far as somebody, like, they can't, it would be not easy for someone to do because all my work is online. Now, if you don't post anything online and you are concerned about that, well, if it was on your website, it would be online. But if you are concerned about that, you can actually do a copyright, like, file for the copyright thing. I forget what it was. I want to say it used to be like $30 a piece. I couldn't afford that. I paint way too much. There's no way I'm paying to have everything copyrighted. It makes it more straightforward if you have to sue. But in my case, because everything is online, you can see me painting it. I've got the original footage of it being done along with the dates where it was posted online. It would be very, very easy for me to win that in court if I needed to. Oh, we've got a bid for the painting. Yay! Oh, somebody's gonna get my beat. I was totally gonna hang them on my own wall too. So I liked it a lot when it was like, I'm putting this on my wall. I'm not even upset if it doesn't sell, but it is. So you guys have 8 more minutes to bid. No, you don't. 7 minutes. I can't tell time. Numbers are hard. Okay, where is the next question? I'll still do the box opening. Oh, did I miss a super chat? Was there another one that I talked right over? I did, from Vicky. Said, I appreciate you always sharing the truth about being an artist. Absolute gold. Thank you, Lisa. Thank you. Also, boys, you know what that means. There was a super chat. You get a treat. Yeah, Gibson, you want a treat? Whether you intended them to get a treat or not, super chats mean the boys get treats. Your ear is backwards. These are your favorite, huh? It's just special treats for a live stream. Ready? Okay, there you go. You're not going to take it to your bed? Oh, drool is just pouring out of his mouth right now. Like, it's a good thing I mop these floors every week. This is why I can do one more reason not to have carpet. Okay, go lay down. You're done. Go lay down. Take it to your bed. Lay down. You're choking over on it. You eat it too fast? Go lay down. You're a race dog. You can move faster than that. Oh, gotta stretch. In the bed, all the way. Good job. I know, that was super hard. But thank you so much for the super chat. My brain already shut down on the name. Vicky, thank you so much. The boys, thank you too. Okay. Can a Canadian bid on the auction? They aren't able to put in their postal code. No, I can only ship this in the US. Now, if you have a friend in the US and you want me to ship it to them and have them deal with the international shipping, go for it. But otherwise, no, unfortunately. Why don't they sell it stretched, the paper? I don't know. I'm sure there's a reason. They claim that it comes pre-sized and stretched and all that. It's not. None of it ever is. I really don't know why. I mean, I'm assuming there's a reason. I just have no idea what it is. Who makes your prints? Are they drop shipped? Please talk about how that works. So, good question. So my prints, it depends on, I have 2 ways that I typically go for prints. One is Vistaprint. So I guess 3 ways. Like where I send my postcards and the small mini prints that go to for our Patreons, the 9 and the $9, $14, and $19 tiers. That is done through Vistaprint. Great quality, and whenever there's been a mistake or a problem with the print, they are like, their customer service is top notch. So impressed with them. I've been using them for years. So I watch for when there's sales, because full price is way too much, but they have sales often enough that I just wait for sales and then order what I need. The other way I do is a place called Clay Today. Love them. Everything tends to print a little darker than what it looks like on my computer monitor, any computer monitor, so keep that in mind. But Clay Today, I actually think it looks better when it's a little darker. It always looks better. So I use their matte print. I cannot remember the finish that I get. Actually, hold on. Let me see if I can find it. I will tell you if I have it. Clay Today. I'm just looking to see if I've got one of my, thank you for ordering. What did I order? These are Moab Natural is the type that I'm using. I've got a straight cut edge. I get mine individually bagged, and that's it. So Moab Natural is the paper that I use with them. So it's a matte finish. Beautiful. These are the Giclée. So this is more than like a poster. They're really, really nice, but I only sell them in person. I do sell these ones at Aquashella. So they're just, and you can drop ship through Giclée today, but it's a bit more, I'd actually have to be involved in that process. The other way, the way that I have on my website, so like you go to my website and under the prints there, what you would actually receive is through Fine Art America or Pixels.com. So same company. And they drop ship and you've got multiple choices of things to get. I had to pull all of the merch that was like t-shirt quality off because it was horrible. When I saw in person what that looked like, that was an embarrassment. But if you ever get something with them and it doesn't look good, just send it back. Like you're covered, return it. Don't feel bad about returning something if they're doing a terrible job printing it. Because I didn't know the t-shirts looked that bad until a friend had ordered one and it was like, whoa, that is coming off my website. But the rest of their prints that I've seen look great. Pillows I have printed with them. I test my mom. My mom's my tester. I have them sent to her. Puzzles, really high quality puzzles. My mom loves puzzles and she's currently like cussing me out because of the octopus that has his hand in the bowl with a, yeah, apparently that one's a hard one. So I always get yes, that is driving my mom crazy at the moment, but I send them to her. I'll order them and send them to her because she knows if it's going to be good or not. She tests them and then sends me photos, all that stuff. So prints like posters, they've got multiple types. You can print it on metal, you can print it on canvas, you can print it a normal poster, tons of different sites, and I don't even have to be involved. So other than I upload the image to them and then they will print whatever you order. Now the downside is people complain that stuff gets stolen all the time and then they go and make prints. That's going to happen no matter where. If you're posting your work online, unfortunately, it's going to happen. Generally, if they're stealing that to then make prints, it's a lesser quality. Like you're not going to get a knockoff of my work and have it look anywhere near as good as what you can get directly from me because they don't have the original files. They're taking a screenshot or taking the photo that was on the internet, which is not the same as what the print shop has my original file. They get the good stuff. But so that's kind of the only way I make myself feel better about knowing that people do that is if you buy a knockoff, it's not going to look very good. So yeah, that is Pixels.com, Fine Art America. That's who I sign up for. I pay, I don't know, 30, 40 bucks a month. Not a month, a year. I forget what it is, but I did their upgraded, like whatever, so I could have as many images on there as I want. You can do, I think that, I don't know if they still do. They used to have a free service, but you could only have like, I don't know, 10, 15, 20. I don't remember what it was, but you had a limit on how many different prints. And because I have so much, it made sense to pay once a year and get that. So those are my sites. And if you are in Dallas, you're going to be around in May 20, did you write that? You did. May 20th and 21st. Thank you, Nick. Nick pays attention to all of these things. 20th or 21st, aquashella.com. You can get tickets. I will be there with my art with the Giclées of some of the marine life. So you can come or just come chat with me about art because that's pretty much what I do is stand there and chat all day with mead. Let's see. I'm not sharing the mead. That would probably be illegal. But now you know what's in my thermos. That's like my Aquashella fun thing. I don't drink that much of it though. Otherwise I'm not working. Moving on. Let's see. Not Happening said, can you use alcohol ink in an airbrush? I genuinely have no idea. I cannot answer that. And the reason I would say I don't know, I'm sure technically you can. I don't know safety-wise because I know some people, I used to know someone who said they knew someone, I don't know, they were airbrushing oil paint. Never do that. Like that means you're having to use a paint thinner to thin the paint down. Paint thinner is perfectly fine unless you make it aerosol and you're breathing it in. Now that's the problem with paint. That's when paint thinner gets dangerous. So like even the odorless, the Mona Lisa odorless, you thin that down and you make it into an aerosol where it's being spread. Oh my God, you're killing yourself. So do not airbrush oil paint. And that's the only reason I'm not sure, YouTube's not gonna like that I use those words in that order. Don't research first because I don't know what products are safe once they become aerosolized. Obviously, this is fine. Inktense I'm not worried about. So ink is probably okay or an alcohol ink, but I don't know for sure. So research that. That would be my concern. Let's see. Do you make much from Fine Art America? I thought only like less than $20 for a print. Oh, you decide. So my prints are expensive. You go to Fine Art America, I charge more than anybody else because if I were to print this for you and send it to you, that's what I charge a lot for my prints. I'm the only person you're gonna get a quality of my print from. So I have to be able to make money like off of this. So like Fine Art America is like, oh, you should only mark this up for like $2. Screw that, that's going up 20 bucks or whatever, $10, depending on what it is. Fine Art America's markup is like their suggestion is so, in not all the time, sometimes it's a good suggestion, but more often than not, what they suggest you should mark things up, it's outrageous because they want you to get the sale because they're getting the majority of the money off that. Heck, you know, I'm getting a big cut too. And it's not about being greedy. It's about being practical. I have bills to pay. Like that is what that print would, if I made that print on my own and I were to ship it out, that is what I would charge for. So I get that they're trying to like, I don't know what they're trying to do, but I do not sell for what their suggestion is in most cases. And as far as how much I make, it depends. If I push it and I remind people I've got prints more, it's just one of many areas of income, and it's not a big one for me. I make more from YouTube ad revenue by a long shot, which isn't even that much, than I do off prints. And it depends because some months prints sell better, some they don't. They're only going to sell as well as you market. People aren't likely to just like go to Fine Art America and randomly find your picture of a cardinal and want your cardinal versus this cardinal. They're going to choose it because who you are, because they wanted something from you. You've got to market it. It's not going to do it on its own. It's not a build it and they will come sort of thing. It's make sure people know, well, through your website, through social media, that you've got these prints available. That's how you're going to make money. The more you do that, the more potential you have to make money. But don't expect Fine Art America to advertise for you. That's not their job. They just need to make the prints and send them to people. It is your job to get people to your print shop in order to make those sales. So it just depends on how much work you're going to put into it. Free tier is 25 images. So it's not bad. A lot of people, 25 would be enough. So just to get started selling prints, it's worth doing for that. You can remove one to add new ones if you wanted to, if certain ones weren't selling, but that's pretty good. The auction is closed. We have a winner. I can't see it, but I'm assuming there is one. It doesn't tell me. Yeah, it doesn't tell me who bid on that one. Anyway, congratulations to whoever won it. This will not likely ship till next week because I will get it varnished this week. I want it to dry completely before I wrap it and smush it between glassine and cardboard so that it gets to you without anything sticking. But I want that varnish to really set. But you will have a video of your painting being varnished in the next few days, so that's pretty cool. Thank you guys so much for being here tonight. Thank you to those who bid. And what else? Oh! Box opening. I need to open this box because, and there's not that much, so it won't take long. And I've got Chipotle waiting, so I have to hurry my butt up. Let's grab these. Let's see if I can take the label off so I'm not flashing everyone my address. I love you, but not enough for you to show up at my door. Oh, what's up? Oh. Yeah, I put it right under one of the cameras, but luckily that camera wasn't on. I'm like, oh, I'm a freaking genius. I'll have to edit that out, but it wasn't showing. Okay, so let's see what I got. Here is my blick box. Hand over the address, Lisa. There we go. I'm just going to open that. I think it's nothing like major. It's just mostly paint. And bubble wrap. We have a bottle of a big bottle of phthalo green. Another big bottle of phthalo blue. These are the two colors I mix to get teal. Phthalo blue, phthalo green. I get big bottles because I use teal a lot. What's next? Rose pink. Why I bought pink when I would just mix it, I have no idea why I choose the things I choose late at night, but we now have rose pink. That is an odd choice, Lisa. Raw sienna. I've been out of that one for a while. We have transparent red. Don't know what I was going to do with that. Light olive green. And then these colors will tell you the light fast rating, and these are all light fast, but you've got a little, that's not going to focus. Nope, there's no way that's focusing. There's a light fast rating on these, so do watch. Don't assume they're all light fast because the fluorescent colors, like the neon colors, they are not light fast. Okay, two more. Ooh, that's a pretty one. Did I not have that? Quidonkadonk magenta. And bright aqua green, this is the color I often use to outline things because it's just that perfect light teal glow. And really, this is just my would be phthalo blue, phthalo green mixed together with some white, but I use it often enough, it's worth it to me to buy the pastel. Okay, what is this? It's like an iridescent color. Interference blue, fine. This is, whatever it is, that is not, like it's iridescent white. I don't know what I thought I was gonna do with that. Huh. I don't think whatever it looked like online is what that is, because that's not a color I would typically go with. Actually, I think I probably wanted titanium white. I wonder if they sent, do I have a packing list? I'm gonna have to look, because I bet you they sent the wrong thing. Or maybe I just clicked the wrong button, because it's titanium white is what I need. So that's not even next to each other on the thing. I don't know why that one happened. We've got Titan Green Pale. That doesn't look anything like the photo. That is weird. It's like white with a tiny bit of green. So whatever it looked like on the website also wasn't that. Weird. Phthalo Blue Green shade. I am out of that one. Perusian Blue hue. Yeah, it looks like just sap green. I don't know why I bought more of this. I got plenty. Wait, or maybe I did run out. I don't know. Phthalo Blue Green shade and Turquoise Phthalo. So those are what I got. Paint and airbrush paint. That could have come in handy tonight. Actually, no, none of those colors would have been useful tonight. So yeah, lots of paint. And apparently I need to go figure out what the heck I bought 2 of these colors for. Interference blue. It's interesting because I don't know if you guys, well, this one might, no, you're not gonna see that way. I don't know if you can see the color swatch is over this and it has like a blue iridescent. I mean, it's kind of neat. I wouldn't have chosen it. I don't know what it looked like on the site, but that looks kind of fun. I'll have to play with that. I don't know what I'm going to do with it, but kind of neat. Anyway, thank you guys for joining. I will see you next week. I don't know what we're doing next week. Leave me comments of what you're looking for. Perusian blue. Yeah, I can't say that word. You make fun of me all you want, Joseph. It's very similar to Quadonkadonk magenta. Anyway, thank you guys for joining. I will see you next Wednesday at 8 p.m. Bye.
Hey, you. Yes, you. I see all your unused art supplies over there. Oh my God, those brushes aren't even opened yet. Tragic. You keep buying new fancy materials, but you don't use them because you don't want to waste them. Stop making your art supplies sad. Sign up for art lessons for as little as $4 a month. There are over 300 painting and drawing lessons available when you sign up and new ones every week. Patreon.com/Lachri.